Aurora Christie Octavia is a postgraduate student, master's program in international tourism and hospitality management at Griffith University in Australia. And Aurora is going to be presenting her project called Taking Care of Indigenous Tourism, a lesson from the Badu tribe. So, Aurora, you're up.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Aurora, and today I will present a lesson from Badui tribe about how to take care of indigenous tourism. So first, let me introduce you to Badui tribe. Badui is an indigenous community that live in Banten province, Indonesia, and while located only 100 kilometers from Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, Badui live as an isolated community, separating itself both from other community and technology development. While living in seclusion, Badui tribe was acknowledged by both local and central government of Indonesia, and Badui's leader actually went to see the government once a year to discuss matters regarding their tribe. In recent years, Badui experienced a huge flow of tourism. Their location, beautiful nature, and intact culture has made them attractive for travelers who looks for authentic experience. At first glance, Badui tribe looks like they have what's needed to be indigenous tourism provider. They have cultural system, they have government support, they have visitor demand. That's why it shocked tourism community when Badui tribe asked to be taken off tourism destination grid last year. Through a formal letter, Badui's representative has explained their concern of COVID-19 pandemic, being offended by tourists, waste issues, and sacral rights ignorance that led to decision in closing off their village. Well, after a long discussion with local government, they agreed to open their area after pandemic has passed. This event still interesting to be discussed. Because why would Badui tribe refuse travelers? Hasn't their huge number of traveler visit bring great opportunity for them as underdeveloped community? I figure there is at least two big reasons that could explain this. First, unsustainable tourism program. By analyzing using the 5 domains of sustainability by Ben Ali, it has been clear how tourism activity in Badui tribe was unsustainable. For example, the material domain has been disturbed by the plastic waste issues as tourists often left their waste in an inappropriate place. Tourism activity has also depleting Badui's limited resource to provide traveler necessities. Tourism has also changed their economic domain by changing the job available in the area and also how Badui's tribe, especially the younger generation, has suffered from demonstration effect brought by fancy stuff traveler has and used within their area. Traveler was also holding different level of respect to nature. But we believe that preserving nature is equal to preserving life itself. Thus incorporating various conservation efforts in their daily life. The tourist has ruined this Badui's domain of life by lack of consideration to tribes' protected area. The social domain has also suffered. Badui have complained that their language has started to deteriorate since the traveler didn't use the local language. While more and more Baduis need to learn this new language to communicate with tourists. The contradicting value tourists brought also led to various conflicts within the community between those who want to continue their culture and those who want to change. This conflict has also led several people to be expelled from the Badui community. Cultural appropriation and value changes has also disturbed the spiritual domain of Baduis. Some of the tourists lack respect for Badui ethics that different with our daily ethics, and being involved in cultural appropriation causing massive inconvenience to the Badui community. Tourist demand of comfort and souvenir have also caused Badui value to shift to materialism and culture commodification. The second issue was expectation gap. Badui expect to share their indigenous wisdom to the traveler, through the tourism activity that they allow in their territory. They also expect visitors to be a contributing learner by being involved in various works across the village instead of simply giving money that didn't mean much for them. Especially since Baduy did not see it's necessary for them to become a tourism destination and have a low desire to develop a tourism program. It's certainly different with the tourist expectation of their vacation in Baduy, as mostly the traveler motivation is to escape the hectic city life. They were quite content by being the bystander, enjoying the nature and cultures Baduy owns. They also expect the money they pay was enough to be the contribution to the Baduy community. This gap has proved made the disappointment and dissatisfaction on both sides. These two issues need to be addressed immediately before snowballing into a much bigger issue. To attend this issue, I would like to recommend several actions. First, proper tourism planning and management. Baduy might have been reckless before by simply open up their area and hoping for the best. Current situation should have made them realize how messy tourism could be. Baduy could no longer welcome the tourists as the free reign guests who free doing anything they want. In the current pandemic situation, they could use the time to develop proper tourism planning and management. They could start by put limitation on visitor number, develop visitor regulation, redevelop their tourism activity, and limit areas for tourism. All of this planning need to adhere to Baduy's desire and capacity for managing tourism. In this matter, Baduy needs a louder voice than the local government, travel agents, and visitors to decide what kind of tourism activity they will allow in their territory. Baduy also needs to embrace travel agent and mass media to assist them in building appropriate brand marketing. Instead of continue marketing Baduy as simply a scenery viewing destination, they could project the image of learning village to the tourists. With this effort, Baduy can adjust the expectation of the traveler and target the specified tourists. Finding the right tourists that fit their criteria will definitely reduce the impact left by the tourists. It's also doable for them since Baduy didn't particularly expect a bigger, significant number of visitors in their village. Last but not least, it's important for Baduys to start making effort of bridging the gap. They could start develop educational material that inform tourists on how the community works, since properly educated tourists will be able to act accordingly and pose a minimal disruption to the Baduy community. By having the necessary information, tourists will also adjust their expectation of the experience and enjoy it properly. Baduy could also start teaching their indigenous language to the tourists to restrict the use of other language in their area. This is the reference that I use. And Baduy request to be taken off the tourist circuit in mid-2020 has become a noticeable warning of issues revolving tourism activity in the indigenous community. The main issues were unsustainable program and the expectation gap between community and tourists. These issues were not exclusive to Baduy community. Less recognizable indigenous community may also experience similar things when they were opening themselves to tourism activity. It is then recommended that the indigenous destination use this pausing moment of the pandemic to change their tourism program. I would like to finish my presentation with one of my own tribe traditional wisdom. Di mana tanah dipijak, di situ langit dijunjung. It roughly translates to on the land we stand, its sky we lift it up. It means whoever we are, we should live as how the initial community lived, hold up their value, and follow their culture. I think if as traveler we hold on this, we could help indigenous community go through tourism development more safely. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Aurora. That was really interesting. While other attendees put their questions in the chat. I have a question that I always think about when I read about suggestions for how we can change and do better. How would you go about supporting the community in making these changes? Like, how do you help them?
It's necessary to start with discussion actually, especially within the travel agents. If I may share a bit, indigenous tourism is something new in Indonesia. It's just been held like a few years back. So actually people don't know what to expect and how to approach this kind of tourism. So I think if there is a discussion between this tourism provider, especially the travel agent, it will help them so much because especially the Baduis, they already have, I think they already have enough resource to do the tourism activity as they want, but they just didn't know how to proceed with it. So yeah, I think the discussion and education will be a main part of this development.
Interesting. Another question I have for you is, do you know of any communities that are doing or like are succeeding with this? Or do you know where travelers could go to find information if they want to take a trip that is responsible for the community? If you don't know off the top of your head, you can think about it and maybe put it in the chat, but I find it's hard as a traveler to, there's so much information and the world is so big, it's hard as a traveler to figure out how to plan a trip and have those interactions that are meaningful and responsible. So if you have any resources you want to share, that would be really appreciated. While you're thinking about that, Dana is wondering, do you know what the Baduy tribe originally had seen as the benefits of tourism? Like,
Yeah,
why did they do
okay.
it in the
So
first place?
I'll answer your question first. So I don't think there is a community that already works on that, but there are communities that works on community-led tourism. They focus on the village tourism, so not literally the indigenous, but the village, the rural tourism. I could share on you on that, and also about the benefits they see, but we actually see themselves as the one who understand and connect with the nature. So their initial benefit that they expect from tourism is they educating other people who already didn't have any connectivity to nature. So they want to educate the others on how you should respect nature and how you should repair your relationship with the mother nature. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there are travelers that goes to this village with that kind of perspective. So that's where it messes up.
Thank
So, yeah.
you. Alyssa, one of our instructors mentioned that you did a really good job of breaking down different pillars. There was another question. Where did it go? Sorry. Here it is. Tracy is wondering, are you or anyone else doing any work to implement the recommendations?
As I say, there is no community work on indigenous tourism yet, but for the community, for the village tourism, there are a lot of startup and NGOs that work on that. They start making discussion, they start accompany these villagers to develop their programs to be less harmful for them. So yeah, I think that will be the starting journey for us Indonesians to start taking care of our indigenous tourism.
Thank you. Anyone else? This is all making me really excited to start traveling again once it's safer to do so. So now I have so many firsthand resources of people to ask when I'm ready to plan a trip to Indonesia or any of these other places. If no one else has any last questions, Aurora, if you have any last thoughts or comments you'd like to share before we move on.
Yeah, I think I just want to restate what my last motto, di mana kaki dipijak, di situ langit dijunjung. I think it's really important for us as travelers to not just thinking about ourselves when going to this new destination, especially for if the destination is in community that usually that has been closed off for centuries. Thank you.
Thank you. We do actually have one last question from Joe. Take it away,
Okay.
Joe.
Thank you. Great presentation. This is more of an open-ended question that to just as you've closed this presentation, I think this is really, really interesting looking at the planning, the marketing, and thinking about the gaps, because I think all of us here, I think, have a lot of different roles, whether it be international education administrators, different operators, providers. With that in mind, I think it's really important for us to think about how we bring in these local communities as we build programs. As many of you know, there's a rise in custom programs and making programs very specific with very specific needs. And I guess something I'm kind of wondering, speaking out loud, and I think for all of us to think about as Study Abroad builds back, is how much and how often are we bringing those local communities, local nonprofits, guides, how much are we bringing them into our customization process? Because in my experience, I've worked a lot with the US partners and people here in the United States to make sure I'm delivering what they need. But I think the conversation has been a little bit less about what I've been speaking to the local communities or the local nonprofits. So just more of an open-ended question. I don't think there needs to be any answer here, but just something for all of us to chew on and for this to let marinate. I'm curious to see where and how this conversation goes. So thank you, Aurora.
Yep, let's just continue listening to others.
Thank you so much.